Hello and welcome to the video. This is the first in a short series about this thing here. Now this is the Bifrost system from Fat Shark, and I'm sure if you're watching this video you've heard about it already. It is their HD offering, and there's been lots of HD stuff appearing on the market recently, most notably the DJI HD system, and if you remember back in the day I also played an awful lot with the Connex system as well. So HD FPV is something that isn't new to me. So this video is more about the positioning and what it is, but also what it isn't, so that I can continue to make the videos in the rest of the series, and also it's a chance to garner all the questions that you as viewers and subscribers may have about the system to cover them in the future videos. So while I unbox it, let's start at the very beginning. What is it? Well, it's a HD system that feels very much like what analog pilots are already used to. There is the receiver, which is in the form of a large screen with 4 antennas. Come on to that in a minute. And then there is a camera, and then there is an FPV transmitter with an MMCX connector to go up to a regular 5.8 gig antenna set. The way Fat Shark have positioned this is very much as a finished set of hardware that's going to have lots of software updates. And if you read some of the blurb on the Fat Shark website and also some of the places that were selling it, this is more of a limited run to get the technology into the hands of pilots, so those pilots can kind of find all the little wrinkles. Too often in this hobby, when I'm doing reviews and first looks of things, it does feel like I'm a bit of a guinea pig. And Fat Shark have been very upfront in saying that's exactly what this is. They're going to use the experience of all of us pilots who are flying the Bifrost to perfect the system. So if you're buying one, that's the kind of way you need to think about it. Now, the video transmitter that fits into the model is nice and small. It has a 30.5mm mounting holes, so a regular kind of 36 by 36mm flight stack, it will just pop on top, and that's exactly where I'm going to put mine, actually into a little iNav powered quadcopter, so that if I do have a problem when I'm testing range, I can just hit the return to home and have it fly back to me safely without endangering the quad, me or anybody else. There's an analog HD camera that connects to the video transmitter, actually made by Runcam, and I'm really excited to see technology in here that is from other vendors, and that speaks to the slightly more open nature of this system compared to some of the monolithic closed systems that are available as well. Now, that little camera is actually going to send analog HD into the video transmitter, and then it's all digital from there on in. So the digital receiver, which currently looks like a large screen, interestingly, it's exactly the same size, or will fit into the Fat Shark transformers. Those of you that watch the channel will remember those. So you can just clip it onto the end. However, with the latest firmware update, the screen can tear a little bit with the 60 frames a second that the system is now running at, so be aware of that. In that digital receiver, there's a HD DVR, which, as I said, now runs at 60 frames a second, and also has the HDMI output that you're going to plug into your goggles. It's really simple to install and set up. If you've set up any kind of analog system before, then this is going to feel very familiar indeed. There aren't a lot of connections. The cable plugs into the end, then that goes into the back of the camera, and then there's only another couple of cables, and those are for power. And then there is an optional connection down to a UART on your flight controller that's going to give you an on-screen display. Now, you're going to have to run Betaflight 4.1 and send MSP or multi-WE serial protocol, for those of you who are interested, into the Bifrost, because the Bifrost does its own on-screen display. But the thing that I'm really interested in this is a modular system that works well with your existing kit. If you've already gone out and you've got your goggles and you've got loads of other models that have the analog FPV things in there, you don't have to have a completely different set of everything. You just take the receiver with the HDMI cable and you can plug it all together, pop the supplied battery on the back, and it's self-contained. So let me quickly go through the installation and setup. As I already said, it's pretty simple. The video transmitter is a regular size, so I removed the TBS video transmitter, analog video transmitter that was in this original build. I'll put a link to the original build if you're interested. This is a Skull 3 frame from Flynoceros, and originally I was wondered if this was going to work. Now, we recently converted this model from Betaflight to iNav, and that has made it a perfect choice to pop this into as a test system. Now, you're going to need 4 antennas for the receiver. I've got my hands on the Pico patches from Menace RC along with their Pagoda antennas, and I've installed them with the patches on the top and the longer antennas at the side angled in. Now I've also printed myself a bracket so it can go on the back of the Tyrannus, so I don't need to also use a tripod when I'm doing my testing. To set it up, first thing you need to do is to go and download the latest firmware from the website. Go and check the website. The firmware's, by the sounds of it, is going to be speeding up in terms of release schedule now. They've got lots of things that they're getting their teeth into. Download the latest firmware, put it onto the SD card. You need to flash the base unit, and then you need to connect the base unit to the video transmitter, and then you can flash the video transmitter up to the latest version as well. The connection into the model is a piece of cake. There are only those 2 power wires, so I've just piggied off the battery voltage on the flight controller. And again, we have those second UARTs. The transmit pin on the Bifrost goes to receive pin on whichever UART you're using, and vice versa. Now, we'll be testing this with iNav. I'm not sure if iNav has the latest tweaks that Betaflight 4.1 has. That's one of the things we shall find out. However, what I have done is install the iNav Lua script onto the radio so that I can still get audio alerts of exactly what's going on the quad when I've got my 3D lock and other things too. To change the settings on the video transmitter, you need to plug in this separate daughter board, and through that you can change the channel that you want to use and also change the power setting as well. Be aware that airborne 5.8 gig VTX transmission is still limited to 25 milliwatts legally here in the UK. And then go into the screen, set the channel that you're interested in, and then you will see the image burst into life, and then plug in your HDMI cable in your goggles, select the HDMI input in whatever goggles you've got, and you're away. So setup is really straightforward. The most complicated thing is just going through the firmware update. And that's the first thing I'll talk about in the points to note on this. The firmware update is changing all the time. There have been a couple of issues and there have been a couple of improvements as well. There was an LQ mode and a HQ mode, like a high quality, low quality. That was something that Connex used to do back in the day. The LQ mode on Connex was terrible, and by the sound of it, it wasn't great on this system as well. So LQ mode has gone, only high quality now is on the system. Now the DVR has been increased up to 60 frames a second, and that's really good news because it also means that when you are flying fast with this system, you're not going to get all the smudging and blurring of the image. And there have been some other things reported. So for example, you might have seen some things on YouTube. There are YouTube compression issues with this. If you upload at 1080p, YouTube compression makes it look absolutely hideous. So in all of the videos I'm going to be doing here, I'll probably upload a separate video of the footage that and link to it so that you can see it in all its glory. Trick is you have to upload at 2K or 4K, and then YouTube uses a different compression that doesn't make it look as horrible. Have been reports of a little bit of interference and static on the higher power levels as well, and that's something that they're also working on. If you're interested in the bracket that I've made to pop it on top of the Tyrannus, I've got a couple of versions of that for different things. Everything that I make I tend to share on my Thingiverse page. Again, I'll put a link in the description if you have a screen like that that has a similar kind of 1/4" screw at the bottom that you want to use with your kit. Last point I'll note about is there is a limited internal on-screen display at the moment. It's literally going to show you the battery, it's going to show you the armed, disarmed status, and also the flight time. So some of the elaborate on-screen display stuff that you're going to get from iNav and modern Betaflight isn't going to be represented in the OSD. And again, I'll be testing that in the next video as we do an awful lot more flying, and we'll see if we can get iNav to talk to it. So it's probably worthwhile me summarising my thoughts on this thing as I've had a little bit of time now playing with it. I have been impressed. Now this is obviously a system designed to help Fat Shark get all the wrinkles out of the software. And I have found a couple of things when I've been playing and updating things like the receiver. So for example, you know, the receiver has to be powered for the update to catch the difference between like the 50 and 60 frames per second, the switch into HQ mode. All those changes have been going on just over the last couple of weeks. So keeping on top of the updates and kind of feeding back to Fat Shark about the impact with that is all part of the fun. Now I have, as you can see in some of the footage, had a little bit of interference, is that it gets swamped, but as you start to fly away, it actually improves and you get a beautiful image. The latest firmware updates have also increased the power levels, and if you live in a place where flying at more than 25 milliwatts is a legal thing to do, you have a lot more choice and potentially a lot more range or a better signal within the area that you fly. I think the biggest compliment that I can give this system is that when I first started FPV and put those goggles on for the first time and looked through the camera on that very first quadcopter with my set of Predator 2s way back all those years ago, it was a life-changing experience for me. I fell in love with FPV and it's been like that all the time. Now, I haven't had that kind of same oh wow experience until I tried this system with the HDO2s. Now, you can go and watch my video on the HDO2s. They're big, beautiful screens. The nice thing is, by having this on top of my Tyrannus, I can just have the cable coming up the goggles and I don't have to have a tripod at the field. And that's been really useful too. To me, this feels like a very complementary technology to the analog stuff that I've already got lots of here and that lots of us are already flying. This video transmitter could be an analog one. It's very similar size, all right? It's a bit of a wacky shape, but it'll fit in pretty much everything. The fact it's connecting to a runcam camera, all right? The camera has to have a very specific analog HD output with particular codes for it to work with the system, but that's available too. The fact that it's been designed to work with goggles that you already own is a welcome feature and means you don't have to buy a complete new set of goggles for the 1 or 2 models that you have the ByteFrost system on. And for me, that's the thing that I would really like to see next. I would love this entire panel, which is a bit power hungry at the moment. It'll drain a couple of 18650s relatively quickly. So my advice would be, if you have one of these, run it from a blooming big battery to keep it running. I would love to see this shrunk down into a module that fits into a goggle, but I guess we've got to get through this initial phase of the ByteFrost early adopters getting all of this experience back to Fat Shark so they can tweak and optimize the software. And I think that's why comparing this system to some of the other HD systems on the market at the moment isn't probably a fair fight. This has never said that it's a final version, and all right, it's quite expensive and lots of people won't buy it because of that. But for those of us that invest in the time and effort to test it out, to fly it, to feed back to Fat Shark and be part of the evolution of this new system, it's potentially going to be the start of something big that all pilots could benefit from. So if you're interested in knowing more about this, then do put your questions down below. I intend to do a little bit more about potentially the updating process in the next video. I didn't want this video to be too long, but if you have a particular question, some more flying footage or those kind of things, then do let me know and I'll try and include them in the next couple of videos as I continue to play with this very fun ByteFrost system. Thanks for watching the video and watching right to the very end. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, and if you like the video and like what I'm doing here, then hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification icon too. If you really like what I'm doing, you can go the extra mile and become one of my Patreons for access to me directly for support and also giveaways and regular updates too. If you're looking for particular content, then check out the playlist. I organise all of my videos into playlists, so if you're looking for a particular topic, you can find everything here. If it's called Introduction To, it's designed to start very simply and build on that simple introduction to teach you all about it. If it's called For Beginners, then that is really aimed at people who are brand new to that part of the hobby. You can also search on YouTube for anything that you're interested in using the search function at the top. So iNav Painless 360 will find all of my videos and even the playlists around iNav. So thanks again for watching and happy flying.